very short. I have only 5 slides. If just to recap the morning session, you can imagine how seafarers should prepare themselves. According to Mr. Valdez, we have to rekindle the past, the seafaring practice. And now we are confronted by the problem of climate change. It will affect navigation. And you have, I think you have heard, a grounding in our local waters. That's one of the effects of climate change. And as Mr. Newpol said, Salvador, the industry is suffering from doing business. And up to present, I think the rising trend of industry development is not too fast. And we feel it in the Philippines right now, the rising cost of everything. My topic is more of emerging trends and issues in Philippine maritime education, training, and certification. Actually, I will not be dealing more on very basic issues, but more of a national concern. I would like to relate it to the previous speakers. What should we prepare ourselves in light of the developments So, siguro alam na natin to by history. The Philippines has been one of the strongest seafaring nations in the world record. And what are these records we have? We were noted as #1 supplier of seafarers in the world fleets. In fact, the last 5 years, POA records, we are deploying about 350 to more than 400,000 seafarers worldwide. But recently, there was a slight decrease of about 10 to 15% of this deployment rate of the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration. We were known also as the money growing capital of the world. Only in the Philippines that we have about 350 to more than almost 500 ship money growing companies deploying seafarers worldwide. And we are known for that. We have been known for that. And we have the most number of higher institutions offering merchant marine programs. In early 80s, we have 57 maritime higher education institutions. In mid 90s, that's practically 1994, 1995, the 57 bloated to 120 maritime higher education institutions. And we implemented the STCW as early as in the late 90s, in the early 2000. The Marina and CHED effort to stabilize maritime education and training. Now we are settling at about 75 maritime higher education institutions offering BSMT and BSMARI programs. And it's rising. Why? Because again, we are opening the doors. We lifted the moratorium of opening maritime programs. We are also a country of a promising ship management. Over the last 5 years, our crewing and manning companies have integrated ship management already. And all this, if we look at why we have this, because seafaring has been the Philippine global significance in maritime service worldwide. And that's our strength. That's why there's a question of what will happen? Do we still be #1? Do we still be the money growing capital of the world? Given the developments, giving countries, developed countries, We are looking Singapore. We are looking Shanghai, China, moving in the picture. This one. Did we fail in making our Filipino seafarers to be globally competitive? Or we made it? It's really a question. We are even bombarded by several audits in the Philippines, and we have seen how we reacted on it. Do we really make globally Filipino seafarers? Of course, the Philippines is a signatory, or we acceded in 1984 to the STCW Convention 1978 as amended. That's the basic standard that we must comply. Statutory governing laws in the Maritime Administration. As early as 1984, we have LOI 1404, the Maritime Training Council. These are the agencies of government that administer maritime seafaring in the Philippines. We have PD 474, Executive Order 125, that Maritime Industry Authority spearheaded the administration of maritime in the Philippines. Let's look at history. And I said, we always go back to history. BP 232, Republic Act 772, the Commission on Higher Education came into the picture of managing higher education. PD 97, PD 1560, Republic Act 8544. We are talking of the Professional Regulation Commission managing the certification system of our Filipino seafarers. And lately, we have Republic Act 10635, again, Marina as the single administration. Why is it single administration? Because in history, our maritime administration is always done by agencies of government. During the LOI 1404, there is what we call as the Interagency Technical Committee, composed of the Coast Guards, the POA, Marina, the Commission on Higher Education that manages the affair of maritime education and training. 474 EO 125, there is an Executive Council that also manages the maritime affairs. The same group of agencies of government sitting down and managing the policies and standards of maritime education and training. Commission on Higher Education, that's the birth of the Technical Panel for Maritime Education, TPEB for short. The same thing, the function is to manage the affairs of maritime education and training in the Philippines. We have the Republic Act 1635. We said Marina as the single administration, but the law is limited only to the oversight function of Marina for maritime education and training to ensure the compliance of the standards of training, certification, and watch keeping of the Filipino seafarers. But still, the management of higher education in the Philippines is still with the Commission on Higher Education. Part of the RA 10635, there was a memorandum issued to that effect. So generally, all these laws, we are talking of a collegial framework of administration. Even Marina, as the single maritime administration, they are still engaged in working with other agencies of government in the management of maritime education and training. So from the international standards and governing laws, there are a lot of issuances that we should look at. By history, do we have enough circulars, policies, and standards coming from the government to implement the STCW standards and other conventions and protocols relative to merchant marine practice? Yes, we have enough. It started with the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports. We term it as the Blue Book. I know that because for my almost 3 decades with education and training in Maritime, I have a copy of that Blue Book. We started with the ladderized scheme of education and training in the Philippines. BEC means Basic Seaman Course. It is laddered to either associate in marine engineering, associate in marine transportation, and the BSMT. There was no BSMARI at that time. The engineering field is under BSMT. Those graduates of the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy, they have the major of electricity and STEM engineering. BSMT major in electricity and STEM engineering. Then we have in 1994, I was one of the organizer of the technical panel for maritime education as early as that year. And we developed the first policies and standards that covered STCW 1978. And that is the Enriched Guidelines, Policies, and Standards in 1994. Again, it's a ladderized program. We have the basic merchant marine course. We have the certificate in marine engineering leading to BSMARI. And we have the certificate in marine transportation leading to BSMT. In 1995, again, we revised the program. To present, we did the ESLP, Enhanced Support Level Program. Then we have the straight program for BSMT and straight program for BSMARI. No more ladderized. It's a straight officers training program. And today, CHED issued CMO 67, CMO 70, 71 series of 2017. In it, as pointed out by Dr. Newpol Salvador, it's the minimum requirement. It does not really answer what's going on in the industry in the future. He's talking of ballast water tank, it's not yet part of that. He's talking of sulfur cup, the technology, it's not still part of that. Then, the latest issuance in 2018, we have the Joint CHED Marina Circular. This is a joint inspection between Marina and CHED. Can all this answer our question if we have enough laws, standards, governing policies for globally competitive Filipino seafarers? Why are we not complying EMSA? In fact, all the standards define key areas of requirements, standard requirements. There are 9 areas of requirement. From quality standard system of the institution, research, facilities, faculty, everything is there. But still, we are still facing problems. Let's look at why. So what would be the solution? Maritime higher education institutions continuously engage in quality assurance as the key to performance excellence in global competitiveness. These are the things that we have in place in our institutions. All maritime schools, under Regulation 18, Regulation 16, to comply the very standards of STCW, Sustainable ISO Standard Certification. Though it's not a requirement, specifically the ISO, but there is no other choice. because the administration has no approved quality standard system. It is through a certifying body. Right now, many out of 75 institutions, about 50%, are now involved in voluntary program institutional accreditation. These are PAAP agencies that engage in voluntary accreditation. I am one of the accreditors. I've been accrediting maritime schools on level 1, level 2, level 3 of PACOCOA accreditation. These are accreditation or quality assurance program that will bring our school to really to the standards, not only locally but internationally as well. We are looking also some schools accredited by PQA. We have the CHED ISA, the Center of Excellence and Center of Development, leading to the regulation and autonomous status of maritime institution. Here in the Philippines, there are only very few deregulated and autonomous university, about 3 or 4. We are also engaged. One of the standards is to be engaged in local and international accreditation memberships, networking, Philippines in general. And maritime schools are preparing for this. They are preparing for eventualities. Not only accreditation that maritime higher education institutions are facing today. And the core, sabi nila, hashtag, quality assurance. The dedication to quality and excellence is more than good business. It should be a way of life in the institution. This is the other challenges that we are facing today. Our Philippine Maritime Higher Education Institution preparing the maritime cadet students for the future, the fourth industrial revolution. Shipping is talking of digitalization. As earlier mentioned by our speaker, there are technology already present aboard ship. And seafarers will be facing this kind of technology. Then we will be asking ourselves, will Philippines be able to make this requirements? Will Philippines be or can be a leading maritime city? Will Philippines be a maritime hub? Or will Philippines be a global maritime center? Recently, these are the plans. There is what we call as the Philippine Maritime Plans, and we must be aware of this. We must be very dynamic and active in these undertakings because the future of the seafarers depend on this. National Maritime Plan in 1994, as early as 1994, mayroon ng National Maritime Plan. But during the round table discussion of Malacanang, that's the first time for my 30 years in the academy, I know that, na mayroon palang Philippine Maritime Plan. And they admitted, they have not implemented it. They put it to shelves. Leadership change every 3 years, 6 years. They have different programs. Then the Philippine Maritime Plan was put on shelves. Maritime Development Plan, 10 years. I was once the president of the Philippine Association of Maritime Institution. And I was one of the signatories of the 10-year development plan prepared by DOTC. But the same thing. Not in action. No action at all. Probably 30%, but no follow-up at all. And coming 2018-2028, there is what we call as the Maritime Industry Development Plan, MIDP of Marina. Hand in hand or in parallel sessions, the National Coast Council from the Office of the President, they will be coming out with a Maritime RTD Summit this 2018. but of the same concept. Maritime plan for the future of the Philippines. We must be active on this. You can download, I think they have put it in the website, and be the part of the plans. So, what are we really for? We have plenty of cadets here. Preparing seafarers of the future in different skill sets. They are talking, Captain Salvador is saying, it's not all about technology. It's not all about technical. In fact, literature says, there are other skills. We have to scale up the skills for the world lifelong learning. Maritime education and training is also facing world development. The ASEAN 2015 standards, the Philippine qualification framework, the mutual arrangement of standards in other countries, in developed countries. These are things that our maritime education and training have been doing something, but still, the issue is lack of government support. Not by the laws, because we have enough laws. We have enough plans, but the actions. From leadership to new leadership, change of leadership. There are always changes of the plans. That's why this time, we are calling all the sectors to get involved and speak out as well. Papakita ko lang sa inyo yung what should be maritime education and training in the future. Over-concentration on crafting policies and standards for seafaring, for sea practice, for BSMT and BSMARI programs. We forget a lot of things in the maritime. So I am just showing to you the education ladder, the shipboard practice, and alternatives. If you will not be at sea anymore, what should be the alternatives? And these are the things that Maritime Education and Training Administration must look into. Right now, we have the basic education transformed into K-12. And our senior high school, we have already maritime program as early as grade 12. So we have the textbook track for maritime, and we have the pre-baccalaureate under the STEM strand. From senior high, they can be already certified. If they wish for certification, they can go for shipboard training and be certified as rating for deck and engine, rating forming part of the watts. If they do not want, then they can proceed to level 6, the officers program. Right now, we have the level 6. The level 6 is a degree granting program for merchant marine officers. There is a program coming below level 6, concentrating on STCW standards alone, but the same, at the end of the day, you will become also officers. It's a lesser year. It's almost 3 years to complete to become an officer. Unlike the peace program, it will take you 4 years to complete the program. Then you can go for shipboard training and certification after that. Take the officer in charge. Our concentration is on the officers program, level 5, level 6. Up to this time, we do not have standard for merchant marine advanced studies in terms of masteral and PhD program. Very few schools take the cudgels of making the program and even putting difficulties by CHED of having a recognition because there is no standard for the program. CHED is always saying, we cannot grant you authority because there is no standard for that yet. So up to this time, there is no policies and standards specific for vertical articulation of the BSNT and BSMARI. But there are schools. MAAP, for example, they have already their Master of Science in Marine Engineering and Master of Science in Marine Transportation. AIMS, we have the Master of Science in Maritime Administration. The focus of the program is to develop maritime leaders, administering the affairs of maritime in the Philippines. The supervisors, the executives of our maritime administration. So this is the area that we should look at. Level, that's why the problem is the soft skills of our merchant marine officers, because they are trained to be operators. They are not trained to be managers, to be supervisors, because lack of program in that area. We look at also level 8 for doctoral. AIMS has already PhD in Maritime Administration, and these are program taken from World Maritime University. Plugging lang to ha, yung gusto mag-doctoral, mag-enroll na kayo. For the last 30 years, I have seen that, the last 15 years, you cannot see merchant marine officers with master's degree. But in the last 5 years, you can see them. They are doctoral degree holders already. And they are now the one managing the affairs. You can see maritime education institutions, government agencies. We have merchant marine officers with master's degree holder and PhD holder. In spite of the lack of basic standard of the government on higher education. Now, we always look at merchant marine practice. How about the other side of the shore-based practice? We forgot to develop administrators. We forgot to develop ship manning crewing company. We forgot to develop port administrators. We forgot to develop surveyors. We forgot to develop environmentalists. We forgot to develop logistics and supply chain officers. Mind you, the technology is not anymore just simply operating the ship. Right now, they are talking of ship-to-shore delivery as simplest delivery of cargo. We forgot to develop marine insurers. We forgot to develop maritime administrators. That's why we have problem in the administration of our maritime affairs. My dearest friend, my audience, you have now 1 minute to take your lunch. A lot of things should be done and be active and dynamic in the progress of our maritime education and training. Kami magre-retire na. We keep on insisting to our government to do this and that. No, we do not have standards. We don't kill our industry. Do we want really to have only 5 maritime schools in the Philippines? You cannot get number 1 again. While other countries are developing so many maritime schools, producing so many seafarers, China in particular. So let's take a look on the Philippine Maritime Plan. They put more premium on monitoring schools, but they do not put premium on developing schools. Thank you very much.